Well, hello there, community. I am Jason Rahm, and I'm your host for this episode of a special pop-up version of DevCentral Connects, which we do on occasion, and we are going to be coding live today. And it's always a little scary because it's like when you go to conferences and you do demos, and it's like, maybe have a recorded demo just in case because things can go south. But there is no recorded demo for this, so we will troubleshoot along the way. Hopefully, you will join me in that effort, as I am sure to get narrowly focused on something that will distract me from the problem, as I did last time, and the audience, the audience, picked a brother up and helped me through my challenge. So we are going to do something fun today, right? So the advent of code, if you don't know what that is a annual challenge in the month of December, and it is a 25-day experience leading up from the beginning of the month to Christmas, and it's always in some kind of a theme around elves and reindeer and Santa and all that. And like I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, there was a submarine that had to navigate the waters in order to ultimately get to the destination of being able to deliver gifts. And this year it was a little bit different. They were hiking across terrain and all that, but it's a fun story that you are trying to solve challenges along the way with. But before we get into that, I do want to let you know that it is almost that time again, quarterly security notice coming February 1st. So, keep your eyes open and your ears attuned to the announcements that will come on February 1st. And of course, we have the normal DevCentral Connect show every Tuesday morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. And so you'll want to tune in. Boo always has a lively, exciting time where sometimes Aubrey and I pop up, sometimes it's other people, and it's a great show. So make sure that you show up on Tuesdays, and we'll do these as well. The pop-up shows. I'm going to kind of shoot for like a cadence of every couple of weeks, and we won't always do iRules. In fact, after today's show, the very next show we're going to do is we're going to dig into packet captures, automating packet captures on Big IP. And I have released an update to that utility on my GitHub repos at F5-ROM. And, it's working now as far as decrypting, but I missed TLS 1.3. So when we do the live coding a couple weeks from now, we'll add the functionality of getting TLS 1.3 session keys in there and the differences between what I had, as well as if you didn't want to use iRules, you just want to use the F5 switch and embed the keys in the capture itself, you'll be able to do that as well. And so that'll come in a couple weeks. And I always announce these shows on the DevCentral Connects group at community.f5.com. So if you go there, register completely free, and join the DevCentral Connects group, when I do a pop-up show like this one, you'll get a notification there. And so, all right, well, let's talk about the advent of code. So let me share my screen, and let me get over there. And so, like I said, all the daily challenges are set up in a way where it's a storytelling adventure. And day one is always more low-hanging fruit to just kind of get your to wet your whistle, and you do any language you want. I know Boo last year when we started on day one, I always do them in Python. Sometimes I will solve them in like JavaScript just to keep what little JavaScript skills I have relevant and fresh in my memory. But he actually took Excel on the day one and solved it that way, which I thought was pretty clever because you don't think of Excel as a programming language, but it is a tool. And for that first challenge anyway, it was a good tool for the job because he was able to solve it pretty quickly. So I thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, you can go any language you want through these, and I know some people that do it several languages a day, which I'm good to solve the problem in one language, and not always successful at that because I don't come from a computer science background. And especially as you get further and further into these challenges, if you don't have a computer science background, especially heavy in like graph theory and heavy mathematics and data structures and algorithms, you will suffer. And because there's just some things that you can recognize the patterns and know these things, and I don't. And so you could have a solution that I did solve one, but it took like hours to run. And one guy's, oh yeah, it took a little bit of time, but then I refactored and it ran in like a second or 6 seconds or something like that. And so I'm not there in my data structures and algorithms. So I'll share something a little bit later in the show, towards the end, that is going to be learning fuel for me this year in that regard, because I've been putting off data structures and algorithms for a really long time, and it's time for me to just dive in and know them. And it comes back to skill building, right? It's not something that I necessarily need on the day to day in the job that I do, because I'm not a full-time developer. But if you do anything with scale, if you do anything that requires incredible performance, you kind of need to know those things. And if you're writing iRules, scale is kind of important, right? Because you have hundreds of thousands of connections per second possibly coming through your box, and the more connections coming through, the more performant you want those iRules to be. Otherwise, you're buying more boxes, which we're not offended by, but we do want you to get the most out of what you do. So this show, we're going to try to solve day one in an iRule. And what we'll do is we'll walk through the story, kind of talk about some of the concepts that we need to plan for, and then I'll walk you through my Python solution before we then start writing the iRule solution. So what I have a benefit of now is I've actually solved this problem just in a different language. Whereas if we were coming in fresh on this one, we would have to not only just write the code, but we'd actually have to solve the problem together. And so I know how to solve this problem, but solving it one way versus solving it in something that's fairly locked down in iRules is a little bit different of a story. So with that said, let's talk about the story. All right, so calorie counting is day one. Santa's reindeer typically eat regular reindeer food, but they need a lot of magical energy to deliver presents on Christmas. For that, their favorite snack is a special type of star fruit. Okay, that one's just setting up the game. So yeah, that's over the course of. So you need to get stars for the actual story for this challenge starts here at this paragraph here. The jungle must be too overgrown and difficult to navigate in vehicles or access from the air. The elves' expedition traditionally goes on foot. As your boat approaches land, the elves begin taking inventory of their supplies. One important consideration is food, in particular, number of calories each elf is carrying, which is our puzzle input. So each day you get a test input, and then you get the actual puzzle data. And we'll take a look at that here in a minute. The elves take turns writing down the number of calories contained by the various meals, snacks, rations, etc. that they brought with them, one per line. Each elf separates their own inventory from the previous elf's inventory, if any, by a blank line. For example, suppose the elves finish writing their items' calories and end up with the following list. So you have this list here, and this is your test data. And if all the elves are separated by a blank line, it means that the first elf carrying food has a total of 6,000 calories in these 3 individual snacks. The second elf has 1 snack. The third elf has 2 snacks. The fourth elf has 3 snacks. The fifth elf has 1 snack. However, all varying levels of calories in each snack. So if we're looking at this from a data perspective, what we have to do is have to, break kind of in between here, and in between each elf, and then within each elf, we need to find a summary. We need to like build a list of these as we read them, and then we need to summarize those. And so, that is the first step. So in the example data, they give you the answer. The answer is the sum of the calories for the elf carrying the most amount of calories. Okay, so if we look at this, we can just kind of do that mental math. this is going to be the ELF with the biggest, and that's 1724, so 24,000, and that's the answer for the test data. And so we're going to want to deal with that data. We need to read it in. First, we got to get the data into the iRule for us to be able to solve the problem. And, I thought about that ahead of time. It's like, man, would we just do a post and I would do a curl and send that data in? I think instead we'll build iFiles. That way we can play with iFiles because there's nothing really fancy about reading post data. And so we'll create an iFile. We'll put that data in there, and then we need to read that data, and then we need to manipulate that data, and then we need to summarize that data. Right. So we have a lot of steps here. So first, why don't we create the test data and upload it into iFiles so that we can read them from the iRule. So if I copy that, let's go over here and just create a file, and let's call that. What do you want to call that? Test data. Okay, and we'll put that in there. Okay, we're good to go there. And then we actually need our create another file. Puzzle data. Okay. And to get the puzzle data, it's always they tell you what your puzzle data is. I think, where is that? Oh yeah, here's your puzzle data. Okay, so that's a lot of data. Copy that, and we'll dump that into puzzle data here. All right, so wow. Okay, so you can tell the difference between 14 lines in the test data, and we actually have 2,236 lines in the puzzle data. So, any small errors here get extremely exacerbated when you actually use your puzzle data. And I found sometimes as you're going through the efforts that you can solve with the test data, but you might have some one-off errors that aren't caught in the test data, but they are caught in the puzzle data, and so you have to go and refactor. But we'll go through that. All right. So in order for us to upload those, let's go to the command line, and I do have this iFile utility in Python. And if anybody wants, I can create a gist of that. But it's basically just to be able to upload data, create the iFile system file, and then create the LTM iFile reference to that system data so that you can use it in iRules. So it's like a 3-step process: upload the data, create the file, create the iFile. And so this does that through a list of files. So if I do that, let me see, Python. Let's do big IP stuff. Create my files.py. And then I want to, if I remember, I should build a tooltip for this, but I'm taking instantiating big IP through my first. Okay, so ltm3.test.local admin, and then I need big IP stuff, test data, and IP stuff. Get it up text. Okay. Let me enter that. And so, okay, so both those iFiles have been created. Good to go there. So we can then use that data. We've got test data and puzzle data without the .txt. Those are going to be our objects that we're going to use in iRules. And so, all right, let's go out of the data. All right. And then let's just look at that again. So let's start writing an iRule. And I told you I was going to walk through my Python version before we write an iRule. Okay. So on the Python end of things, it was a pretty easy solution in that you can just do a list comprehension. And so I have effectively a double nested for loop, but you can do that in a list comprehension in Python. And so, for the elf snacks in the data, which breaks down by elf, and then here for each integer for the integer in the elf snacks, so that's the particular elf snacks, then I'm going to sum that. And then once all of that's summed into a list of elves, then I'm going to take the max of that, and then I'm going to return it. So I can do that in a one-liner for part one of the solution. And then in part two, we haven't read the part two, so we'll come back to that once we read part two. But that's effectively the solution. You're just going to do an iteration and summarize the data, and then return the max. For us, sum and max, those are functions within Python that are built in. I'm sure those are built in as well in Tickle, but I don't think they're built in, at least accessible packages that we have in iRules. I'm happy to be proved wrong if anybody has done that, but instead, so we're going to build a proc for that. But let's get the iRule basics going first. So we'll connect to my big IP, and so this is VS Code, by the way, and this is the F5 extension with also the iRules extension working part and parcel together. And so let's get an iRule created. We'll start just by creating a new file, and we'll start with iRule language, so we get the syntax highlighting. And then if we start from just so when you're writing iRules in VS Code, it's actually an LTM object, and the iRule fits inside that. So I don't really worry about the line spacing within the LTM object, but I do within the iRule itself. And so so LTM iRule, let's just call this ASC day one for Adventive Code day one. And if you have any questions, comments, if you want to live code with me, let me know in the comments, and I can activate that here in VS Code, and you can join me. But if you just want to sit and watch, and that's fine too. All right, and so if I come here, this is going to be a request event because I just want to be able to return the data. I'm going to set a priority so the iRule editor does not complain at me or complain to me. And basically, we have two different tests, right? We have test data, and we have puzzle, the actual production level puzzle data. And so we want to be able to pass just a URI string to be able to use to call up the data from the test I file or the non-test I file. So let's go ahead and look for the if HTTP URI equal test, then we'll do something, and then else if HTTP URI equal puzzle for the production data, we'll do something, and then else, since we don't really want anything else to do, let's just respond with a 406, not acceptable, not an acceptable destination to lose. Good day, sir. All right, give me a reference for that for those of you who might have been around for a while. Hint, Gene Wilder. Okay, so in this section, let's do this. So we want to be able to pull that data out of the I file, right? So whether it's this or the elfis, or else if misspeak there, we want to be able to set that data, right? So we want to be able to I file get, and then our names were, what were our names? I already forgot. Test data and puzzle data. That's pretty easy. So it'd be just get test data, and then here set AOC data I file get puzzle data. And then if those are set. Let's just go ahead and we want to return there. All right. And then HTTP respond 200, since that is acceptable one. And then we can just respond with the data. Make sure that we're seeing what we think we're seeing. And by the way, the iRules style guide that was released in December, I will come back through at the end of this and clean it up to follow the iRules style guide. Most of it, some of it, I don't necessarily agree with every point in that. To each his own on that, but it is a good start, and I'll link that as well in the show notes on the DevCentral Connects group. The links that I'll talk about today, they'll all be posted there. But things like not wrapping your variables in curly braces, I'll clean that up. I don't know that I'll change my EQ as test, because I am comparing string to string, so I wouldn't do the double equal sign there. Things like injection as well. Some of the work that we'll do here will probably end up with an injection command, or commands that support injection. So we'll want to protect against that. But for the purposes of live, I'm just gonna code. So don't flame me as I go through here. All right, so let's give this a shot at saving it. And so in the VS Code extension, we want to merge our change, and we'll see that did not like that. What did I do wrong? Oh, there's a spelling error. So let me. Nope, that's not what I meant to type. Merge. Okay, we got a successful merge there. So one thing we need to do once we've created an iRules, we actually need to attach it to a virtual. So let's come back over here to my other. I need to build in a virtual environment into VS Code. Most of the work that I do is in, at least with Python, is in PyCharm. I have not made the conversion to VS Code for it to being my full primary development environment. So sometimes I go back and forth. Apologies if that's confusing. But let me see. So I want to import from big rest, big IP, import big IP, and then big rest equals big IP. So the host name, and then my super secret admin password there. And you know what it is. So if you can get to my my big IP here locally. Oh, here we go. I forgot. I don't have. I don't have SSL certificates that are valid. So I'm gonna not verify those sessions, and then I do want. Okay, so that should work better. All right, so now I have that variable loaded, all's good. So what I want to do now is I want to load my test VIP, br load tm LTM virtual test VIP is a VIP I have on my machine. And that has loaded, so now I can do VIP properties, and I can look for rules. There are no rules attached right now, so I can add that property. And rules are a list in the iControl. And then we called this, what do we call it? AOC day one. Okay. I've created that. And then I can just do a br save and zip. And that should actually apply that to, okay. So if I load that again, that reload there, okay? And then take a look at the properties. So we see that that is applied now on, oh, you can't see that. That's behind my head. Let me just go full screen here real quick. Got to shout at me if I get in the way. So that is that there. Let me see if I can. I can't move that over. I could do this instead of, and go here instead. Is that still readable? Everybody can still see that size? Let me know. But anyway, that is attached now. So if we come over here to the shell and I curl, and that address on my big IP is that, I get that. There's my message, the not an acceptable destination. You lose. Good day, sir. And Aubrey, thank you. You can read it. And so there is our message. If I in default, if I do test, well, there's my data. That's good news. And if I do puzzle, there's a lot of data. And so, all right. So we have a functioning iRule. It's working. It's not solving our problem yet, but at least it's working. So maybe what we'll do before we start iterating through data is kind of look at what we can do to summarize the data. And what we'll do is we'll build a couple procs for that. And so let me bring let me bring okay. So there's a couple different things that you can do with procs. If you use a lot of procs on your system, some people will build a proc library, and so they'll create one rule that is just a rule of procs. It doesn't actually do anything directly with events. It's just a place to store your procs, and so that's one approach. The other way is if the proc is going to only be related to the rule that is calling it, then you can leave it within your same rule. And so we'll do that. Maybe there's summarizing functionality. Do this. I'm going to bring that back only so those aren't tabbed in the actual content of the LTM object. All right. So we'll build some procs, and proc is just the proc name. So we need to find a sum of each elf, right? And we'll send a snack list to that, or a list of snacks. So last snack list. So in order to find a sum, what we're going to do is we're going to set a calorie sum, and from that we'll need to iterate through each one. So let's say for each snack in the snack list that got sent, right? We need to set calorie sum to an expression of calorie sum plus snack, right? And so that should give us the iterate. So you send a list of 5 snacks. That for loop should iterate 5 times and create a, take this calorie sum. And if you've done any kind of programming elsewhere, it's just, plus equals, right? It'd be calorie sum plus equals. But in Tickle land, you create the expression here. You take the calorie sum, whatever it is, and you add snack to it. So we're just iterating and continuing to increment that calorie sum by the value of whatever is sent in the snack. And then once we get done doing that, we need to return that value. And that should be good. Okay. Next, we need to have a proc for finding the max, right? Because the first thing is like we need to know not just what the elves total calorie count is, but we need to then, from that list, we need to pick the biggest one. And so let's do a find max function, or define one anyway. So we'll send the elf list to them. So the elf list will be a list that we'll have to create that will be a summary of each elf's calories. And so once we have that, we can send it here. And then we want to set the max to 0, and we're going to have to find out which is bigger, right? So if I'm just looking at 2 values, then I can go through a list, right? So for each elf in the elf list, and then just do a simple comparison, right? So if the elf is greater than the max, then we want to set the max to that elf, right? Because it just got bigger. And if it's not, we don't do anything about it. And then once that for loop is done, then we can return max. So pretty simple functions there. And to be fair, we don't have to do these in functions. We could, or procedures rather, to use tickle speak. We don't have to do that. We can do all that in the iRule. So we could nest those for loops. I don't like to do that. I like to separate a little bit of the logic because it can get really busy within the HTTP request event. And so by doing that, it cleans up. It'll clean up the logic quite a bit. All right. So let's take a look at what we actually need to do now to manage this data. So let's take a look, instead of returning the data, let's take a look at what that actually looks like if we log it. Let's see. Okay, so I'll do the test data. So log local 0. AOC data. All right. Let me save this again. And that was successful. So let's add another console here. So we've got our local console to run our commands against, and let's go over to our big IP here. All right. And so now that we're there, I can do a tail on var log LTM and let that go. Bring that up a little bit. Okay, so let's make that clean. And then let's go ahead and run that again, but not with the puzzle data. Let's just do test. Okay, so we ran that data, but we also should have a log statement of that. All right, so that data is coming in, and at least how it's logging, I just see separation. We're not seeing new lines in there, which is interesting. I wonder, can you split on a single white space or extra white space? Let's look at what that would look like if we split that on 2 white space. Okay, so let's give that another shot. Okay, well, that just kind of converted it into a list, but it didn't really change my my separation at all. That's interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at splitting that. I know there's new lines in there, but the way it's visualized in my tools is not there. Let's take a look at splitting that differently. Keep that down. All right. So I want to create that. We'll just set it back to itself. But if I split on the new line, let's log statement out. local 0. Let's just AOC data. Okay, let me save that. And often when you're writing iRules and you're like tracking down niche stuff, it's like this. You solve one problem at a time as you're going through it, and see where you end up. And so let's get that saved. It could flesh out. I could build out the whole thing, but all right. Okay. Well, that's different. So we got data back that is, now that I took the new lines out, obviously we see that it's not sending down on multiple lines. And now I have this weird bracket, which is empty set, I'm guessing. But I do have a list of values here, and I have a separator there, and that's kind of cool. All right. So that means if I then split on that data, there we go. Let's see what that looks like there. So okay. Oh, perfect. Okay, good deal. So now you see, like, we're separated, and we actually have lists of values in there. So that's going to be super helpful. All right. So now we can iterate through our data. We know we have that present for each snack, because we're going to send, like, we're going to go through in that data. We're going to look at the snacks that are there. So let's do that. AOC data. If let's think through this. Okay, so we have to go through this data, and we've got to skip these things. If our list looks like this, we want to process it. If it looks like this, we want to look at everything that came before that, right? Because we know that when we get to this, all these values down here need to be accounted for as an ELF. So once we get to this, the values before that matter, and then we skip forward to the next one, so that value matters, and then we skip forward to that next one, and those values matter. So we almost have to, like, hit behind the effort, right? And so what we want to do here is I want to take if the snack is not equal to this, right? Then we want to append to our snacks value. We'll set a snacks value, and then we want to add that snack. If it's not, so if we haven't hit that in our lists, then we want to go ahead and append that snack, right? And then otherwise, we need to process data, right? So if it's not that, we append. But once we've done that, once we've hit all those initial values, now we need to process that, right? And this is where we will call our function, right? So we need elf calories, and that's call. Was it? What do we call it? Find sum. Okay. Call find sum, and we're going to pass the snacks to that, right? And so what it's going to do is it's going to send the list of snacks. So for this first one, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, it's going to send that list of snacks to the function, and then it's going to return that and set it to this variable. And that's good. Now, what else we need to do in that, while we're iterating through all of these snacks, is we need to create our elf list, right? So we need to append, let's just call it elves, and we're going to do that to elf calories. Okay. And what else do we need to do? Oh, yeah. So one other thing that we need to do here, and we need to unset snacks, right? Because we've been appending that. If we don't unset that after we've summarized that and added it to the elves, then we'll keep building that list And so then we'll get all the snacks into one elf, which obviously is bad. And so that way we need to unset here. Unset. Okay. I said I wasn't going to put in the injection, but I did. So it's that one's not going to be an injection hack. Oh, there's one other thing we got to do here. We need to wait. Info exists. Right. We need to know that obviously if snacks doesn't exist, we don't want to set this, and that's important for the end of list, right? Otherwise, we're going to end up with a tickle error. And so that is there now. And then I think that is that. Let's see. I think that's all that's in that part of that builds the elf list. Oh, yeah, we actually have to see what we're going to how we're going to find the max, right? So set elf max, and this is another call to find max, right? And I'm going to send that to send the list of elves to that function. And so if that is the elf max, then we can send the data. Instead of the data, let's set elf max. Okay. And let me know if that looks good to you. If you have any questions, I'm going to guess that we did not solve the problem right out of the gate. Oh, see, that did not find some cannot be found. Okay. Don't save. Did I do another typo there? Oh, there we go. Yep, that was find underscore some. All right. Okay. So let's give that a run. All right, let's give that a run. Oh, we got a reset. That merge successful bar. Okay, let's see. You can't use non-numeric string as operand of. Okay, is that in our find sum? Okay, so let's look at our find sum. Let's do a log statement here. Log local 0. Snack is. Okay, give that a try. All right. That failed as we knew it would. Where's our snack is? That's interesting. I don't see. Those look like numbers to me. Let me see what the snack. Let me see what the snack list looks like. Let's look at that right above it. Log 0 snack list is. Anybody see anything I'm missing? Feel free to weigh in. All right, that's done. Let's give another log statement here. Snack. Oh, see those brackets? Okay. All right. We can solve that problem. let's do this. Let's do a string map here. String map, let's see, format is that, and then, okay. So we want to take those brackets out. Now the challenge here is because it's tickle, you got to escape stuff, right? So that. All right. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm mapping any bracket in that list that's coming in. We're going to remove it so that only the numbers are going to come through, and that should solve the problem. Okay, let's try. Oh, that's good. We got a number back. Okay, cool. All right. So that gave us 24,000. Now let's go back here for the test data. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So that was the 24,000 was the test data answer. Woo! We have a working statement there, and got some comments here real quick. Thanks, Aubrey and Jason. You are welcome, sir. I'm not sure what you're thankful for other than being here. So, but you're welcome regardless. And go Pittsburgh Pirates. Cardinals. And Aubrey, I'm just learning. Love that you can do this in VS Code. You can do everything in VS Code, and if you're doing anything with the automation tool chain with DO and AS3 and TS, you are doing yourself a disservice if you're not in VS Code. And then Aubrey, LTM log statements are made. Yes, they are. They are. One thing I didn't do at the top of this. Is I didn't set a debug variable so that I can turn this stuff on and off. I should probably do that. And I'll do that in the final version that I upload so that you guys have a access for that. Okay. So my answer was 70,296 for the real data. So let's clean this up a little bit. Return HTTP respond content. Let's do this. So this is part one of the solution is self max, right? And then we can do a new line. Part two is going to be something else. We'll just leave that alone for now. But the other option we have here, or the other thing we need to do is we need to make sure our real data is going to be our real data. We're going to get the answer. So what did I say the answer was? 70,296. Okay. The other cool thing about advent of code is that you can't just steal people's answers and upload, because everybody gets their own data. It's different for everyone. And so you can't just go steal answers. You actually have to know how to solve the problem. Now, a lot of people post their solutions out on GitHub as far as how they solve the problem. So you can download their code, run it, and cheat if you want to. That's not really the whole point. The whole point's to learn and to grow your skills. All right. So let's take a look at that again that way. Our part one is 24,000. Now let's do puzzle. And let's see if we get a good answer here. Boom, 7296, 70,296. Okay, so part one, we solved. Good deal. Now let's bring this home. Let's do part two. Let's read the status for part two. All right. By the time you calculate the answer to the elf's questions, they've already realized that the elf carrying the most calories of food might eventually run out of snacks. To avoid this unacceptable situation, the elves would instead like to know the total calories carried by the top 3 elves carrying the most calories. That way, even if one of those elves runs out of snacks, they still have 2 backups. So in the example above, the top 3 elves are the 4th elf, the 3rd elf, and the 5th elf, and then you need to sum those calories. All right. So that's 45,000 if we're looking at the sum of the top 3. And so let's see what we need to do there. Okay. So let me go back to my Python solution so you can see what we did there. Here, it was pretty much the same solution as the other one as far as building the inventory of the snacks. But then here I'm taking I'm sorting it. So I'm using the built-in sorted function, and then I'm taking the first three um, values. Actually, that looks like I'm taking the last three values. So I'm sorting it low to high. And then I take the last three values, and then I sum those. So I'm summing everything for each elf. Then I'm sorting that list. I'm taking the last three. This is slice. Like in Python, it's slicing. So it's just taking of the list. It's taking the last three elements, and then I'm going to summarize those. And so that's again a one-liner and easy peasy. We don't actually have to build anything new. We can use uh, the built-in list functions for TCL, which is fantastic. We can use lrange and lsort, and so that's awesome. Let's do that. So let's go back to our iRule. We have this is solving part one, and um, solving part two is we need to set a top three, right? And so we can do um, an else sort, right? So we'll start on the inside and then we'll work out. So we else sort by integer, and we want to decrease that, right? Oh, it's not. It's decreasing, and then we take the elves list, if I can spell correctly, and then so that else sort decreasing elves. So that's going to take our list of elves, and then we're sorting on integer. If you didn't sort on integer, it would sort by string because everything in Tickle is a string. And so your tens and your hundreds and your thousands would be sorted in that way instead of it being sorted by integer. So this way, it'll go 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 until you get to 100. And so you need the integer so that it's sorting by numeric value, not string value. Um, and then we want it to be decreasing because we want the first three, right? So that's the L sort, but now we want the range of that, and that's where L range comes into play, and that's just 0, 2, and so that's our top three, and that will return. And if we for part two here, let's return top three, and we'll save that. Now this is not our answer, mind you. But you see 24,000, 11,000, and 6,000. And if we go back, that was, I think, the answer here. Yeah, 6,000. Let's see. Um, 24,000, 11,000. Oh, we not get the right answer there? No, that's 30. That should not be. What did I do wrong there? So are we missing? It's definitely showing us 3, but okay. So for the answer anyway, we need to call our function. We can troubleshoot why we're not getting the right answer there here in a minute. If we have time to troubleshoot, I need to finish at the top of the hour today. I got to go get my boy from school. But again, we want to call our find sum, and we're going to send the top three to that. And then so we'll just write over that same variable, and then let's run that again. That should be. Okay. That's 41,000. That's definitely not the right answer. It's 45,000. Let me look at what the L range is doing there. Set temp. Let's just look at the L sort and see what's going on there. Oh, got an extra. Okay. let's run that again. Oh, that didn't like that. What I do? Oh, there we go. All right. So if I run that test, wait, I'm not actually, I need to log that or just send temp back. See what happens. Let's see. Yeah, that's funny, Boo. Yeah. I have not received an invite back to the Pittsburgh user group since my ill-fated decision to wear my Cardinals championship hat at the Pittsburgh user group at the Pittsburgh baseball stadium. It was a great event, beautiful event. Appreciate Marisa let me come to that. All right, so let's test that again. Part 2. So, we're missing the last elf. So if you look at the test data, right? If we bring up, where's our test data? We're missing the last elf. I wonder, now that we're going through this, I wonder if we need to Yeah, I'm not going to solve that now before we have to get out of here. But it looks like I'm in this for loop because of the way that split happens. That I need to, outside of the for loop, create that last L append, and so I need to think through. That might actually change the logic a little bit in the for loop, but yeah. So, I got the right answer in the first because the elf in earlier on the list than the last one happened to be bigger, but I didn't really solve the problem totally. I'm missing something in the final solution with that, and so I'll have to take a look at that later, and I'll give you the update in the gist that I'll share to the show page. But we got a long way to actually solving the problem in iRules, and I wasn't quite sure we would get the whole way today, and we didn't get to part 2. I do have an error in my logic. I'll track that down, figure out where my error was, and I'll say a couple things in comments when I identify the problem. And in fact, maybe I should wait a couple days and give someone else an opportunity to find the problem. And if you find the problem, I'll send you some swag. So why don't I just throw that out there? I'll let this sit and marinate until maybe Wednesday of next week. And if you find the problem and solve it by Wednesday next week, I'll shoot you some swag. So we'll throw that out there. And with that, I think we'll get up on out of here after a second. Have a couple more comments in here. Maybe I'll put that up there before, but need John Allen to tag in while I go get my kids from school. Absolutely. And I love John Allen. In fact, he would probably take this like, no, you don't want to do this in native Tickle. We'll just slide that over to iRules LX. We'll do it in JavaScript. And so thank you. I appreciate that, Maurice. Yeah, let me know. I'll come. We'll hit opening day maybe. Oh, June 21st. There you go. Absolutely. I want to be there. So we'll figure that out. Oh, Jack, what's up? So hey, that's right. February 17th, heading to Columbus. to go to a user group, be moderating a panel, and just meeting with people. I've been to an F5 event since COVID, and this will be my first customer event since the COVID era. So I'm really excited about that. Can't wait to see you, Jack. So, all right. Well, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a lot of fun. I hope you learned a lot. And really, the thing about doing things like Advent of Code, it's not. I mean, how useful is an iRule where we return puzzle data to solve puzzles? There's nothing useful about that. There's something incredibly useful about going through the exercise of learning your command set in your tool and stretching your mental muscles to use those skills. And so, to that end, I'm really excited about doing exercises like this going forward. And if you like shows like this, make sure you click like and subscribe, drop a comment. If you have any questions about this content or other content we might do, come register at DevCentral, community.f5.com. We have all kinds of content happening there in the form of articles and in technical forums where you can ask the hard questions and get answers, and you get answers pretty quickly. And so make sure that you make sure you subscribe here, you join there, and come back Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific to hang out with Boo. And with that, I will see you all on a future show very soon. Enjoy your day. Have a great week, and I will find my outro at some point so I can stop talking. Here it is. I found it. Have a great day, guys.
Well, thanks for checking out that video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. You might want to check out one of these videos over here. And if you haven't already, go check out community.f5.com. This is where all the DevCentral Connects hosts hang out, as well as the rest of the community. It's free to sign up, and we'll see you there.